Welcome back. I'm Lanita Ellis, the Scrappy Grandma, and this is the Bible reading playlist. And basically, a month or so ago, the Father had me start reading the Torah portions online, and on YouTube for my friends, my husband and my friends who don't feel real confident in their Bible reading, and so they listen. And so I started reading it for them to listen to, and for them to learn about Torah, because they both are, my best friend and my husband are both real interested in learning more. And so I started reading the Torah portions, and then I felt Father just say, yeah, why don't you read the Bible too, from start to finish. And back up a few months before that, I had been wanting to get up and get in the Word, and I wanted to so bad, and I kept trying, and I would get distracted and it wouldn't happen. And I finally was like, Father, give me a passion for your Word. Give me a hunger and a thirst, and help me fall in love with it, and help me just devour it. And when you ask those kind of things from the Father, He is more than happy to answer. So, and that's what He's done. And now I just want to share my passion with whoever He sends, that He wants to hear it. That's it. So this week we are starting off in Bereshith, which is Genesis. I do read from and this is the anniversary edition. It's pretty big because it has large letters. It's the Scriptures translation, and it does restore the Hebrew names. So you may hear, if you're not used to it, you may hear the different Hebrew names, and you'll get to hear me butcher all the different Hebrew names as I try to pronounce them. So, okay, we're going to start with Bereshith, Genesis 16. And Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no child, and she had a Mitzrayit. Mitzrayim is an Egyptian. Mitzrayim is Egypt. Female servant whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, see, Yahuwah has kept me from bearing children. Please go in to my female servant. It might be that I am built up by her. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. It's interesting because the Father just this past week was showing me how the curse, or the word spoken over Eve when the original sin, was that she would, have pain during childbirth, and that her husband would rule over her, and that she would, let's see. And when you study the translation, what it was saying is that she would strive to usurp his authority. And man, don't we as wives do that way too much? And it is kind of it's almost like we're compelled, or we're under a curse that, that's the curse, that's the consequence for Eve's sin. And so we're always going to have that struggle back and forth of trying to have authority. And boy, okay, I'll just speak for myself, because but I know I have other friends and hear the same thing, that we were raised in this generation where we were taught women could do anything men could do. And we were also taught that, we were smarter, they were stronger, things like that. Always. And so, but here, Sarai, she's manipulating the situation. She's taking authority over her husband, although he complies, but most don't they? Really? It's easier just to let us have our way, especially, when we have our mind set on something. And so it's sad. It's, that, I mean, it all works out, but not the perfect plan. And, that's something that I'm striving to learn, how to be in correct, proper order, and allow my husband to reign in his home. He's the king in the home. It's not something I'm good at, something I have to work at really hard. But Father God he's working it out. So, I asked for help and he's doing it. So, and giving me plenty of opportunities to practice it. Okay. We didn't get very far, sorry. 16:3. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her female servant, the Mitzrayite, and gave her to her husband. Her husband Abram, to be his wife, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. Okay. If you don't have a nice warm beverage, if you're actually sitting, I'd recommend go get your Bible if you haven't already and pour yourself a warm beverage and study with me and see what the Father uncovers as we read through these. So, and if you need to, go ahead and pause and go grab your Bible and your beverage and come cozy up with me and we'll learn together. All right. So, he had been dwelling in the land of Canaan for 10 years, and Sarai's not having any children. She's not getting pregnant. So, I mean, she's getting frustrated and impatient. And so she has a solution. And when he went in to Hagar, starting again in 4, sorry, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. So she kind of put herself up that she was better than Sarai because she could actually bear children. To me, it sounds like. And Sarai said to Abram, "My wrong be upon you. I gave my female servant unto your bosom, and when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Let Yahuwah judge between you and me." And Abram said to Sarai, "See, your female servant is in your hand. Do to her what is good in your eyes." And Sarai treated her harshly, and she fled from her presence. It's just sad all the way around. But that's human condition. Most of us women, we would do a lot of the same things. So, and the messenger of Yahuwah found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Sur. Wait a minute. Yes. Okay, and she fled, right. And he said, "Hagar, Sarai's female servant, where have you come from and where are you going?" And she said, "I am fleeing from the presence of Sarai, my mistress." And the messenger of Yahuwah said to her, "Return to your mistress, humble yourself under her hand." Wow, there, once again, proper order. And the messenger of Yahuwah said to her, "I am going to increase your seed greatly, too numerous to be controlled." Or counted, counted. 11. And the messenger of Yahuwah said to her, "See, you are conceiving and bearing a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because Yahuwah has heard your affliction. And he is to be a wild man." Can you imagine, moms, that you're getting this bit of information and beforehand? I mean, you're just finding out you're pregnant, that you're going to be pregnant, and you're going to be raising a wild man. Awesome. "His hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and dwell over against all of his brothers." It just doesn't sound very encouraging. Hold on, I've got to pause. Or I'm just going to run real quick. I'm going to pause. My freeze dryer I need to fix something. Okay. Sometimes it needs a little help sealing when it goes into vacuum mode. So yes, he's going to be called a wild man, and his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and dwell over against all of his, and he will dwell over and again, over against all his brothers. And she called the name Yahuwah who spoke to her. And she called the name of Yahuwah who spoke to her, "You are the El who sees." For she said, "Even here I have seen after him who sees me." That is why the well is called Ber Laharoi. See, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. And Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. 17. And it came to be when Abram was 99 years old that Yahuwah appeared to Abram and said to him, "I am El Shaddai. Walk before me and be perfect." Can you imagine? "And I give my covenant between me and you, and shall greatly increase you." And Abram fell on his face, and Elohim spoke with him, saying, "As for me, look, my covenant is with you, and you shall become a father of many nations. And no longer is your name called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, because I shall make you a father of many nations. And I shall make you exceedingly fruitful, and make nations of you, and sovereigns shall come from you. And I shall establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be Elohim to you and to your seed after you. And I shall give to you and your seed after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I shall be their Elohim." And Elohim said to Abraham, "As for you, guard my covenant." I don't have a pen. The Father's just really been speaking covenant to me the past week or so, and just really uncovering covenant. And he wants to be in covenant with us from the very beginning, being in covenant with Adam and Eve, and then them falling out of covenant. And he's always, building the tabernacle, and Noah, he's always wants to be in covenant. And those that want him, it's just such a beautiful thing. So, and Elohim said to Abram, "As for you, guard my covenant, you and your seed after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you guard between me and you and your seed after you. Every male among you is to be circumcised, and you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall become a sign of the covenant between me and you. And a son of 8 days is circumcised by you, every male in your generations, he who is born in your home or bought with silver from any foreigner who is not of your seed. He who is born in your house and he who is bought with your silver has to be circumcised. So shall my covenant be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And an uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskins, life shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant." And Elohim said to Abram, "As for Sarai your wife, do not call her Sarai, for Sarah is her name. And I shall bless her and also give you a son by her." Can you imagine, you're 99 years old and all of it? And, I forget, she was, she was old. And all of a sudden he's like, "Yeah, no, that old wife of yours," like right now, like he were to tell Rusty, "And that old wife of yours, she's going to bear a son." Wow. I know they lived longer in those days, and so she was still probably a lot younger, but wow. As for Sarah, okay, "And I shall bless her and also give you a son by her, and I shall bless her, and she shall become nations." Sovereigns of people are to be born from her. What a beautiful promise. And Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said in his heart, is a child born to a man who is 100 years old? Or is Sarah, who is 90 years old, to bear a child? And Abraham said to Elohim, oh, let Ishmael live before you. And Elohim said, no, Sarah, your wife, is truly bearing a son to you, and you shall call his name Yitzhak. Yitzhak. Isaac. Itzhak. Don't know how to pronounce it. And I shall establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. See, I shall bless him, and shall make him fruitful, and greatly increase him. He is to bring forth 12 princes, and I shall make him a great nation. But my covenant I establish with Yitzhak, whom Sarah is to bear to you at the appointed time next year. Has a year's preparation. And when he had ended speaking with him, Elohim went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all those born in his house, and all those bought with his silver, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin for that same day, as Elohim had told him. And Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised that same day, and all the men of his house, born in the house or bought with silver from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. 18. And Yahuwah appeared to him by the terebinth tree of Mamre, while he was sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day. I love this part. So he lifted his eyes and he looked, and he saw 3 men standing opposite him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to greet them, and bowed himself to the ground, and said, Yahuwah, I have now found favor in your eyes. Please do not pass by your servant by. This, I don't understand it, and I think it's just awesome and cool, and I need to do a lot more study and have him reveal. Yahuwah is coming in the form of a man, and Abram recognizes him, and he's with 2 other. The angels. It's just interesting to me that at this point he comes down and he's recognizable. I guess that's because he's in covenant. He knows him. He knows his nature. He's in covenant with him. And let me bring, please do not pass your servant by. Please let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourself under the tree. And let me bring a piece of bread, and refresh your hearts, and then go on. For this is why you have come to your servant. And they did. Do as you have said. So Abram ran into the tent to Sarah, and said, hurry, make us 3 measures of fine flour, knead it, and make cakes. Yeah, that's not something easily done in a hurry. But I always found that interesting. Hurry. Make some bread, make some cakes. And Abraham ran to the herd. This isn't done in a hurry either. I guess, it was a much slower paced life back then. So their hurry, could take 6 hours, where our hurry needs to take 6 minutes. Because it's like, oh, hurry, pick up some bread, and I'm going to go kill, dress, prepare, and cook a calf. And it's not a quick thing. So Abram ran to the herd, took a tender and good calf, gave it to the young men, and he hurried to prepare it. And he took curds and milk of the calf, which he had prepared, and set it before them. So they got some appetizers. So I just, how cool is this? And, and this was the culture, passers-by, because, they're taking long. I remember when I was a kid living in the country, and we would set out and walk for miles, and take all day, going wherever, just being out, being kids. So, I mean, this is a culture that's so far removed from us now, of walking places, and then hospitality of people. Hey, come on in, have a glass of lemonade, whatever, in the hot sun. So just how beautiful. It just reminds me that we really need to slow our paces and get more in step with a simpler life. So they're under the tree, and they're eating their curds and milk and the calf. So he took the curds and milk and the calf. So I guess they didn't get appetizers. I guess they're just hanging out for a while, talking and waiting for his guys to take care of the calf and cook it. And they said to him, "Where is Sarah, your wife?" And he said, "See, in the tent." And he said, "I shall certainly return to you according to the time of life, and see, Sarah, your wife, is to have a son." And Sarah was listening in the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in age, and Sarah was past the way of women. And Sarah laughed within herself, as I would too, or scream in terror. "After I have grown old, shall I have the pleasure of my master being old too?" And Yahuwah said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh, saying, 'Shall I truly have a child since I am old?'" All I can say is that in the Father providing this child, and how beautiful, after being barren all those years, that she gets the blessing and the beauty of bearing a child and having her own child. And so I would have to imagine that Yahuwah would also have given them the strength and the capability of raising him being so old. And like I said, they lived a lot older back then too. "Is any matter too hard for Yahuwah? At the appointed time, I'm going to return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah is to have a son." But Sarah denied it, saying, "I did not laugh," for she was afraid. And she said, "No." He said, "No, but you did laugh." And the men rose up from there and looked towards Sodom, and Abram went with them to send them away. How beautiful this is too, that they're going, and because of the covenant relationship that they have with Abram, they're going and giving him a warning. Hold on, I need to go fix it again. Okay. So how beautiful is, because of the covenant relationship, they get, Abraham and Sarah, and all the people that with them, which there's a lot, they get forewarning. They get, let know ahead of time that bad stuff's coming. So, and Yahuwah said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I'm doing? Since Abraham is certainly going to become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I have known him," there it is, "for I have known him, so that he commands his children and his household after him to guard the way of Yahuwah." So because he's in a covenant relationship, and he guards that relationship, he guards that covenant. That's so beautiful. To do righteousness and right ruling. He's a fair, righteous, upright man. So that Yahuwah brings to Abraham what he has spoken to him. And Yahuwah said, "Because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very heavy, I'm going down now to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it that has come to me, and if not, I know." So the men turned away from there and went towards Sodom, but Yahuwah stood still before Abraham, and Abraham drew near and said, "Would you," and once again, here's the beauty of that covenant relationship, how close they are. he intercedes and he pleads with him, and gets quite bold. And so and Abram drew near and said, "Would you also destroy the righteous with the wrong? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare it for 50 righteous that were in it?" It shows Abraham's heart. He has such compassion that, there's got to be some good people down there. Don't kill everybody. And far be it from you to act in this way, to slay the righteous with the wrong, so that the righteous should be as the wrong. Far be it from you. Does the judge of all the earth not do right? So he's like calling Yahuwah out, but he's reminding him of who he knows him to be. Aren't you righteous and true and compassionate and kind? And so, and Yahuwah said, "If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I shall spare all the place for their sakes." And Abraham answered and said, "Look, please, I who am but dust and ashes have taken it upon myself to speak to Yahuwah. Suppose that there are 5 less than 50 righteous. Would you destroy all the city for the lack of 5? And he said, "If I find there 45, I will not destroy it." I love this. And he spoke to him yet again and said, "Suppose there are found 40. And he said, "I would not do it for the sake of 40. And he said, "Let not Yahuwah be displeased." I'm starting to, be a little bit worried if he's pushing it too far. "And let me speak. Suppose there are found 30. And he said, "I would not do it if I found 30 there." And he said, "Look, please, I have taken it upon myself to speak to Yahuwah. Suppose there are found 20. And he said, "I would not destroy it for the sake of 20. And he said, "Let not Yahuwah be displeased, and let me speak only this time. Suppose there are found 10. And he said, "I would not destroy it for the sake of 10. And Yahuwah went away as soon as he had ended speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. So now the 3 men, Yahuwah and the angels, are going to go and check it out and see if there's any righteous men. And the 2 messengers came to Sodom in the evening. This always blows my mind. And Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom, so the entrance of the city. And when Lot saw him, so they must, and from what I've read, through the word and stuff, that's, I guess, what men did, on their off time. They'd go and hang out at the city gate and talk about stuff. Way back before they had entertainment, so that was, guess watch who's coming into the city, and people watch. Anyway, and the 2 messengers came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting at the gate at Sodom. And when Lot saw them, he rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground. This kind of redeems Lot a little bit in my eyes, because I always have just kind of an attitude with Lot, because I think he's just very self-centered. And so, but here he's being generous and kind. And he said, "Look," and he knows his city's a pile and a nasty place. So he said, "Look, please, my masters, please turn in to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet and rise early and go your way." Wonder if he had some sort of discernment, And they said, "No, but let us spend the night in the open square," which I guess might have been a common practice in those days, where, you just, that you're traveling, so you just probably have your traveling pack with you, your pillow, and, you roll out and pillow on a blanket and camp out. They probably had fires, and so they were just going to be in the city square. But he urged them strongly, and they turned into him and came into his house. So, he knew they were in danger. And he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. Before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both old and young, all the people from every part surrounded the house. This just blows my mind. It's like they're rabid or something. It's like, okay, wow, there's two strangers in the city. I guess all the guys that saw them come through the gate and told them, oh yeah, Lot took these guys to his house. And they're like, well, we want them. I don't get it. That just shows the depravity of that time in that city. And they called to Lot and said to him, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us and let us know them. Have our way with them. Not a neighborly city. I guess I'm not going to. I know a couple cities in California where I may not want to go into for fear of something like this happening. So I guess. So Lot went out to them through the doorway and shut the door behind them. And here's where it blows my mind. So he goes out and there's all these people and, oh, give us these guys and everything. He's like, oh, no. Don't mess with my company. Have my virgin daughters. I'm sorry. Wow. So Lot went out to them through the doorway and shut the door behind him and said, please, my brothers, do not do evil. Look, please, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Please let me bring them out to you and do to them as you wish. I'm just like, what? Really? Wow. Only do no deed to these men, because they have come under the shadow of my roof. So I guess it's his honor. He'd rather give up his daughters than than these travelers. But they said, stand back. And they said, this one came in to sojourn and should he always judge? Now we are going to treat you worse than them. So they pressed hard against the man Lot and came near to break the door down. But the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them and shut the door. And they struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, both small and great, and they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said to Lot, have you anyone else here? A son-in-law and your sons and your daughters and whomever you have in the city. Bring them out of this place. And I remember reading something about this or maybe it's just reading this, and thinking it through. Okay, it is down here. So about going and so his daughters were virgins and they were betrothed because they had son-in-laws, or maybe he had more daughters. He had married daughters, but no, he had to go talk to his son-in-law. So I was always trying to figure this out, the dynamic of the family here, because he's got virgin daughters that have not known a man, but he's got son-in-laws. But I know that there's the whole betrothal where, they're betrothed. So that would be, he would probably be considered a son-in-law. And so, for we are going to destroy this place. So have you anyone else here, a son-in-law, your sons, your daughters, and whoever you have in the city, bring them out of this place. For we are going to destroy this place, because of the cry against them has grown great before the face of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-laws, who had married his daughters, and said, see, that's where I got confused. So he's either got married daughters, or they're betrothed to the virgin daughters that he's got in his house. Get up, get out of this place, for Yahuwah is going to destroy this city. But to his son-in-laws, he seemed to be one joking. So his son-in-law scoffed at him, and basically kind of like people treated Noah. It's like, okay, whatever. And when morning dawned, the messengers urged Lot to hurry, saying, get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters. Okay, 2 daughters. So yeah, these are the men that were betrothed to his daughters, and they were like, yeah, whatever, you're drunk, man, or whatever. Who are here, lest you be consumed by the punishment of the city. And while he loitered, the men took hold of his hand, he was taking his time, and his wife's hand, and the hands of his 2 daughters, Yahuwah having compassion on him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. So, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And with the 2 sons-in-law, that's only 6. So they didn't meet their 10 quota. And the 2 didn't because they stayed. They'd prefer that. So basically, it's down to the 4. There was only 4. And they probably saved the wife and the daughters and Lot because he was just related to Abraham, and it was a courtesy and a blessing to Abraham. So while he loitered, the men took hold of his hand and his wife's hand and the hand of his 2 daughters, and Yahuwah having compassion on him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. And it came to be, when they had brought him outside, that he said, escape for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you be consumed. Okay, this part I always hear too. It's like, and Lot said to them, oh no, Yahuwah, look, please, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have increased your long, loving commitment, which you have shown me by saving my life. But it's like, he's running for his life, but let's negotiate. I am unable to escape to the mountains, lest calamity overtake me and I die. I'm not sure why he thought that going up into the mountains, he would end up dying up there. I mean, they're letting him know that he's most certainly going to die in the plains. So that I didn't understand. Look, please, this city is near enough to flee to, and it's small. Please let me escape there. I guess he liked being a city dweller. He wanted to go from one city and go to move into another city and not have to go rough it up in the mountains, possibly. So please let me escape there. It is not a small matter, and let my life be saved. And he said to them, look, I have favored you concerning this matter also, without throwing the city for which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I am not able to do any deed until you arrive there. So the name of the city was called Sor. T-S-O, thingy at the top, A-R. The sun had risen upon the earth when Lot entered Seor. And Yahuwah rained sulfur and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from Yahuwah out of the heavens. So he overthrew those cities and all the plains and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a post of salt. And Abraham rose early in the morning, and he went to the place where he had stood before Yahuwah. And he looked towards Sodom and Gomorrah and towards all the land of the plain. And he looked, and he saw the smoke of the land, which went up like smoke of a furnace. Thus it came to be, when Elohim destroyed the cities of the plains, that Elohim remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the city in which Lot had dwelt. So Abraham gets up, gets his cup of coffee, kind of goes over to just look at his view. I do it. Look at my beautiful view out there over the valley. And he sees there's a fire and smoke and all kinds of craziness going on down there. Thus it came to be, when Elohim destroyed the cities of the plain, that Elohim remembered Abraham. Okay. And Lot went up, and Lot went out of Seor and dwelt in the mountains. This is the part. Okay, so thus it came to be, 29, I'm sorry, 20, it's 1929. Thus it came to be, when Elohim destroyed the cities of the plain, that Elohim remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had dwelt. Oh, so maybe, okay, this is something I never understood, never made sense to me before. It's like, why did he go to the city and then end up going to the mountains anyway? But maybe because Seor was in the plains and Yahuwah is destroying all of the cities, it says here that and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow. So maybe because all of the cities, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had dwelt. So probably Seor. So Lot went out of Seor and dwelt in the mountains, and his 2 daughters were with him. So he ended up in the mountains anyway. For he was afraid, for he was afraid to dwell in Seor, and he and his 2 daughters dwelt in a cave. And I'm just thinking, okay, so you lived in Sodom, that it seemed common that all the men of the city would come to your house and want to have their way with your company, and you'd offer your daughters. And then, you know, Sodom must have been, I just don't get it. Why wasn't Sodom destroyed too then? Because why is he afraid to be in Sodom? And he'd already survived. He survived Sodom. Why is Seor? Why is he afraid? But anyway, and so then, yeah, here we get into, and this is just so stupid. So he went up there with his 2 daughters, and they dwelt in a cave. And the firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there's no man on the earth." They may have thought that because they're living in a cave, they may have thought that everybody was destroyed and there were no men around anywhere, because it says, "There's no man on earth to come into us as the way of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine and lie with him, so that we preserve the seed of our father." I get it. I don't get it. And I just don't know how you could get him that drunk that he wouldn't know. That one's always made me wonder. How'd they get him that drunk? Well, okay, never mind. Yeah. Okay, so they got him but on wine. They got him blackout drunk, had their way with him. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she arose. And it came to be the next day that the firstborn, I'm thinking, oh, he's already hung over, and now they're making him drink again. So I lay with my father last night. Let us make him drink wine tonight as well, and you go in and lie with him, so that we keep the seed of our father. So they made their father drink wine that night as well, and the younger arose and lay with him, and he was not aware. And when she lay down and when she arose, thus both the daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. And the firstborn bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger, she also bore a son and called his name Ben-Ami. He is the father of the children of Ammon to this day. And it's 42 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and stop here. And we will start again, Yah willing, next week in chapter 20 of Bereshith, Genesis. And thank you so much if you made it this far and you've been reading along with me. It's been a joy and a pleasure, and I just want to close in prayer. Father Yah, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity that we have your word so readily available, and that you help with our discernment and our teaching, and you illuminate the path of your word to teach us who you are and how we are to be set apart in covenant with you, how we are to have a covenant relationship with you. Thank you for the opportunity to present your word to whoever it is that you bring to watch and listen. Bless their lives. Open their eyes. Help them to know you more, know your truth, and help them to be able to worship you in spirit and in truth, as that's you are spirit and you want us to worship you in spirit and in truth. Open our eyes and reveal your truth as we walk through your word. In Yahushua's mighty name. Amen. All right. Thank you once again. My commentary, I just kind of share my thoughts as I'm processing all of this. These are just my opinions and my thoughts. Maybe here and there little teachings that I've heard, but don't trust my word. Test everything. Get in there, get your Bibles, read for yourself, wherever stage you're at. If you're like I can just listen to the word and you listen, great. But if I just don't take my word for things, because I'm fallible and I can, and there may be things I say that I'm going to have to come back later and repent of saying, but I just love his word and I want to continue sharing it. So, but test everything. Make sure that everything I say lines up with this is the be all and the end all. And so everything has to line up with what's in here. So be blessed. God willing, I'll see you next week. We'll start in Bereshith chapter 20. Bye.